Do you remember a time when leaving the house meant disappearing? No GPS dot, no messages asking where you are, no quiet pressure to stay connected. You just left, and the world let you go. There was an understanding. You'd come back later. And that was enough. If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you grew up in a version of reality that no longer exists. Not fully analog, not fully digital, something in between. You're not quite Generation X. You didn't spend your entire childhood in a disconnected world, but you're not truly a millennial either. You didn't grow up inside the internet. You came of age during the shift, and living inside a shift does something strange to identity because most people build themselves around belonging. A clear group, a shared experience, a stable cultural mirror. But for you, that mirror was always slightly off. Too young to fully match Gen X, too early to feel native among millennials. So instead of belonging, you adapted. You learned how to move between different worlds, different mindsets, different expectations, and over time that creates something subtle. You can relate to almost everyone, but rarely feel completely reflected by anyone. You remember rewinding cassette tapes, and you remember the first time you used the internet. Both feel equally real. Not separate eras, but one continuous experience. And that changes how you see the world, because you didn't just hear about change. You lived through it. You watched one version of reality fade, while another quietly replaced it. No clear moment, no warnings, just a shift. And even now, there's a part of you that feels slightly out of sync. Not lost, not behind, just unplaced. You're not outside the system. You're at the hinge of it. The lost skill of being bored. Before everything became instant, there was space, time that wasn't filled, afternoons with no plan, moments where nothing was happening, and boredom wasn't a problem. It was normal. You didn't reach for a screen, you didn't scroll, you waited, you wandered. You imagined. A stick became a weapon, a street became a racetrack, a quiet room became a story. You learned how to create something from nothing. Today, this would be called imagination training. Back then, it was just life. You also learned how to wait for a song to come on the radio, for photos to be developed, for friends to show up, on time or not. And waiting wasn't frustrating, it was expected. You didn't need constant updates, you trusted time. And in that waiting, something important formed. Patience, tolerance, emotional steadiness. You learned that not everything happens immediately, that uncertainty doesn't need to be fixed. Your social world was also different. It was physical, immediate, unfiltered. If something felt wrong, you felt it in the room. Tone, silence, body language. You couldn't escape discomfort. You had to move through it. So you learned how to read people, how to repair conflict, how to stay present even when things were awkward. And then there was solitude, not loneliness, just being alone, no notifications, no distractions, just your thoughts. At the time it felt ordinary, but now it's rare, because today the moment silence appears, it gets filled. A video, a message, a distraction. But for you, silence shaped something deeper, the ability to sit still, to think, to exist without constant input. And that ability still lives inside you, even if the world no longer supports it. Growing up during the internet shift, the internet didn't raise you. You discovered it. It entered your life slowly. A computer in the house, a dial-up sound, a connection that felt temporary. It wasn't your environment. It was a place you visited. You logged on and you logged off. There was a boundary, clear and real. Your life existed offline. The internet existed somewhere else. Crossing between them felt intentional. You remember creating your first online identity, not as your full self, but as a version, something you could experiment with. The early internet wasn't about being seen. It was about exploring. But while all of this was happening, you were still becoming yourself. And right in the middle of that process, everything changed. Communication shifted. Connections sped up. One moment, you were calling landlines. The next, you were messaging instantly. You didn't just learn new tools. You learned two different ways of existing. The analog world, presence, eye contact, silence. The digital world, text, delay, curated identity. Most people only know one. You know both, and that gives you range. But it also creates tension, because over time, the boundary disappeared. The place you used to visit became where you live. Work moved online. Friendships moved online. Life moved online. And logging off stopped being real. Now everything is continuous. Messages never stop. Work follows you. Connection is constant. And part of you still resists that because you remember something others don't, that life once had an off switch. And losing that changed more than just technology. It changed how life feels. The identity that doesn't fully belong. Most people grow up knowing where they fit. You didn't. You were told you were Gen X, but it didn't feel right. Then you were grouped with millennials. That didn't fit either, so you learned something different. You learned how to translate. You understand older generations. You understand younger ones. But you don't fully belong to either, and that creates a quiet feeling. You can connect anywhere, but not completely settle anywhere. Your identity didn't come from a label, it came from experience. You remember life before the internet, and life shaped by it. You remember slower systems, and faster ones. Instead of choosing one, you carry both. That creates a hybrid identity. Flexible, layered, adaptive. You see multiple perspectives. You understand change. You question assumptions. But there's also a trade-off. Less certainty, less clear belonging. Generational debates feel distant. You understand both sides, but neither feels fully yours. So instead of choosing, you observe. And over time, a quiet belief forms. I can fit anywhere, but I don't fully belong anywhere. That's not weakness. That's complexity. You're not undefined. You're transitional. When the world changed at the worst time, you grew up believing the future would make sense, that if you followed the path, things would work out. And for a while, that felt true. But then timing shifted. The dot-com crash disrupted early plans. Then September 11 changed the sense of safety. Not later in life, but right at the beginning. Just as you were stepping forward, the message changed instantly. The world isn't stable. Things can shift overnight. And then just as things stabilized, the 2008 financial crisis hit. Again, the timing was exact, right when life milestones were supposed to happen. And once again, the ground moved. This repetition creates something specific. You don't assume stability. You expect change. You prepare. You stay flexible. You keep options open. But you don't lose hope. You hold both ideas at once, that things can improve and that they can collapse. This is your mindset, not naive optimism, not pure cynicism, something in between. Realistic hope, formed by experience. The hidden strength of not fitting in. For a long time, not fitting in can feel like something is missing, like you don't have a clear place. But look closer, something else is there. You adapt quickly, you understand different systems, you move between perspectives. You're not stuck in one way of thinking. You have range. You've lived through enough change to know nothing is permanent, so you don't panic when things shift. You adjust. And now, the world is becoming more like the one you experienced, unstable, fast, always changing. For others, this feels overwhelming. For you, it feels familiar. You've been preparing for this your whole life, not intentionally, but through experience. You are not behind. You are early to adaptation, early to flexibility, early to understanding change. You're not between generations. You connect them, you understand the past, you navigate the present, and that perspective is becoming rare. So maybe not fitting in was never the problem. Maybe it was preparation. Preparation for a world that doesn't stay still. You are not missing a place. You are the bridge between what was and what came next. And in a world like this, that might be exactly where you're meant to be. If this made you see yourself a little clearer, you're not alone. Subscribe for more deep psychology like this. Hit like if it resonated, and drop a comment. I read every one. Tell Tell me, what's one memory from your analog childhood you still carry today?